Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. We will be talking about data management and data literacy in the age of generative AI, which is in many ways a foundational topic. This is, of course, not the first time we see data talked about in an organizational context. For more than a decade, we've seen data spoken about as the new oil, and yet we found ourselves at a moment where data foundations matter more than ever. GenAI isn't a magical layer that will just place on top of existing systems. It ultimately is only as good as the data we have underneath. And we are here to discuss the importance of data in that context. With us today, we have some amazing panelists. We have Saig Abduragimov, Solutions Lead for Government and Education in EMEA and APAC at OpenAI. We have Professor Damianos Hadjiadoniou, who is a professor at Athens University of Economics and Business and director of the university's master's program in business analytics. We have Mr. George Nasoulis, Group Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Piraeus Bank. Ms. Katerina Glava, AI and Data Partner at Deloitte. And Mr. Ioannis Tsiliras, Data and AI Transformation Director at OTE, the Hellenic Telecommunications Organization. So let us start with the questions. Saig, let me start with you. Why now? Why data matter now this much?
Yep, thank you. I think before we dive into that, I want to take a step back and sort of contextualize that question a little bit. Right, so before Gen AI became available to everyone in the form of ChatGPT or any other tool that you may be using, data was siloed to very specialist teams, right? You had your data engineers, data scientists, they were building the pipelines, they were building the applications, and they were also powering those ML models with that data. When chatbots became available, that democratized access to data. So essentially everyone can go and query that data with just a very simple prompt. You don't have to be technical anymore. So that can be incredibly powerful, but you can imagine that also can be incredibly dangerous if you don't have the right data management and data literacy in place. Starting with data management, the quality of the data becomes really important. So when you think of what powers the outputs of those AI models, it's the data, the underlying data, right? So if you have inconsistent, outdated, duplicated data, that is going to be just magnified, and magnified with a lot of confidence. Those AI models will output that, and your teams who are not literate enough to understand biases of the data or the biases of the source will just take that and run with it. So that becomes incredibly important nowadays. And with data management, obviously, we just had a panel on data governance. That also plays a crucial role because giving access to the right data and making sure that that right data is surfaced consistently powers decisions like policymaking, education, financial decisions, which are very high risk. So they need to be very, very precise. And with data literacy, it's important even more so because it's going to be the foundational skill, not just the specialist skill going forward. So it becomes sort of a new form of equality within the workforce.
Amazing, thank you. And I would like to ask the professor, with all your experience, in academia, in the technology sector, how is it this time different? We have this trend with data for all those years. What is different this time around?
Thank you. Well, in a way it's different. In a way it's not different. I think what's different is the scale and the pace of the democratization of data access. However, that's not new. And because you mentioned the past, so let me, from my experience, being in the field 30 or 40 years. In the past, we were managing data using COBOL or Fortran programming languages. So analysts, knowledge workers could handle just 10 or 20 reports, queries per week. They had to go to the IT departments and ask for this. SQL was a revolution, it was a breakthrough. Basically, we had a way to express what we want in a simple way, and it was like having an automated, a good programmer to evaluate, to give us back the answer. That was revolutionary. We could handle, instead of 10 queries per week, thousands of queries per week. So that was the first step of democratization of data. The next milestone, according to my opinion, was the data warehousing, the business intelligence environment, because we started thinking seriously about data integration. Data integration is everything. I mean, it's very important nowadays, and for the last maybe 25 years is a very important thing. So we had different sources and we wanted to create the data warehouse. So that was another step towards democratization of data access. The next big thing, it was 10 or 15 years later, with the introduction of big data. We started thinking how to use unstructured data, text, images, audio, and we started developing different systems, not just relational, structured systems. And the next milestone, the one before GenAI, was the availability of visualization tools, Power BI or Tableau. And the amazing thing is that this technology is just 9 or 10 years old. Nowadays, everyone can plug in a tool like that and do analysis. So it's the next step, I would say. We have a lot of data, different kind of data, so it's the next natural step in the democratization of data access. However, it's the scale and the pace is amazing, amazing. And what's also different is when you have a disruptive technology like this, you need to have a framework. And that's why data governance, ethics, lineage are very important topics in this era. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And switching gears a bit here, let's look at how this looks inside large and complex organizations. And let's start with Mr. George Asoulis. Piraeus Bank has announced its AI strategy backed by significant 3-year investment. Could you walk us through the key data pillars supporting the strategy, be it governance, architecture, data quality, and the operating model you've adopted to deliver them at scale?
Yeah. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here today and share with you Piraeus Bank's journey, I would say, into this AI world. A journey driven by vision, strategy, and a strong commitment to innovation. Our AI strategy is built on 4, I would say, key pillars. To give you an overall picture, I will refer to all 4 pillars, but I will focus in more details on those that are related to data management and governance. First pillar in our strategy is the common vision, I would say. So we developed a group-wide, unified vision for AI and GenAI, focused mainly to delivering value, measurable value, so our strategy is value-driven. Second pillar, it's the business integration. So our strategy is tightly linked with the business priorities and business needs. So we collaborating with over 20 departments within the bank. We have identified and prioritized more than 90 use cases across almost all the banking functional areas, from retail banking, corporate banking, real estate, marketing, wealth management, risk management, and support functions as well. Third pillar of our strategy is the operating model, and I will analyze a bit more on that. So we have developed an operating model, a robust operating model. It includes governance, clear governance, value tracking processes as well, data, I would say, infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and for sure how to integrate to the business. When it comes to data, I think two dimensions are critical, are important: availability and quality. Without robust data infrastructure, mainly in the cloud, data availability or timely and reliable data is simply not feasible. To meet these expectations, we have developed a data architecture in the cloud, a cloud-based data architecture. Apart from that, we have built a comprehensive data governance framework. It includes very clear roles and responsibilities. It includes clear data domains in the business areas and responsibilities and ownership, I would say, structures that are supported by a wide network of stakeholders. More than 300 stakeholders within the bank, from business and technology, are supporting this initiative. In terms of data architecture, we have built a data architecture in the cloud, migrating our data estate to a unified platform. This new data platform in the cloud centralizes structured and unstructured data, streamlines, I would say, flows and integrations. In the same time, it modernizes our technology stack, and it enhances security capabilities for advanced analytics and self-service as well. That's in a nutshell our strategy and focusing on data architecture. In order, I would say there is a fourth pillar. I will very, very briefly refer to that as well. It's responsible AI. We place strong emphasis on using AI in an ethical way. So we are developing a responsible AI framework aligned with the EU AI Act, and preparing for ISO 24001 standards certification. So to conclude, in order to make this happen, to enable this as a success story, there are four, let's say, four key factors. One factor is the commitment, the full commitment from the leadership. Another factor is the active involvement of all the business units, a robust data architecture, and for sure a culture of innovation and collaboration. This is the foundation to turn AI from vision into reality.
Thank you very much, George. Katerina, moving on with you. You've led data and AI transformation in a lot of sectors. When you assess an organization's readiness for generative AI, what weaknesses in data architecture or data management do you most commonly encounter?
Thank you for the question. When we evaluate organizations for their readiness to adopt AI, most of the times we see exactly the same pattern, and we see the same challenges, which of course vary on intensity due to the industry and specific situation for its company. At Deloitte, we use an AI readiness assessment framework that evaluates different aspects of the organization, such as culture, technology, people, and of course the strategy. But the factor that the main area that always comes up with the biggest headache for the organization is data and data challenges. So in order to put a number on that, based on our recent research, 55% of the organization have had to avoid their investments in GenAI or to abandon the implementation of specific use cases because of data challenges. So I'll try to analyze which are those challenges that we see in almost all organizations. The first challenge is that the organizations do not have a clear strategy and a clear data architecture. Generative AI requires a massive data set of different sources, external and public sources, internal and synthetic data, and at the same time, multimodal formats. All this does not always exist in a traditional architecture in any organization. So more the data infrastructure is ready to support predictable analytics and not flexible probabilistic GenAI models. So the organization need to invest on vector databases, knowledge graphs, which is the fuel for a GenAI implementation. A second challenge is data silos and data fragmentation. In the organization, we see data scattered in different departments and at the same time locked in some systems without having a unified view of data. Based on our research, 80% of the time of a data analyst is spent on trying to finding and clean the data instead of doing the real AI application. A third challenge is always the data quality that comes out, and although the organization invests a lot on GenAI investments, on data governance, the issue of data quality is not yet resolved and it needs a lot of effort. And finally, all this drive to the data governance, where in the organization there are not clear rules about data lineage, data privacy, data security, and data definitions. So we have to invest on the data governance. The organization needs to invest on data governance in order to proceed to the next era. And a part of this technology type of challenges for the data, there is also the organizational and cultural barrier that we see in the organization, a disconnection between the business, the IT people, and the data analyst, and it's not so easy to proceed in any implementation. So based on our research, the organization capability to change put the speed limit in GenAI investments. So concluding, I would like to propose that the investments in the data governance and data foundation is not nice to have, it's non-negotiable, it must be there, so the organization need to proceed fast in that type of investments in order to proceed in the next era. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. Now moving on to Yanis from OTE. You lead OTE's AI transformation, and OTE is a huge company. What foundational data management literacy capabilities have proven most critical for enabling AI at scale in such a large environment?
Okay, first of all, I'm really glad to be here and share with you our conclusions and our learnings throughout this journey. By the way, this is a journey. This is not something that anybody can achieve at any point in time. So before we talk about capabilities, it is very important to establish a purpose, a North Star, why we're doing this. And this really needs to coincide and serve the purpose of the brand itself. So it is very important to state upfront in the beginning why you're doing what you're doing and include a little bit of what in it. A critical aspect of this what is what everybody else in this panel mentioned, which is data. Data is not a collection problem. Data is not just growing like trees or the grass, and the only problem that one has is just to go out there and collect it. Data is a design problem. And companies that really need and really want to compete effectively, they really need to design the data they create. And they need to create data that others don't have if they want to be competitive for the future. Because, you know, everybody is going to buy from OpenAI, from Google, from Microsoft, from wherever, all these nice models, and they're really good. And it's very difficult for somebody to develop their own LLM technology. But what they own is the data they produce. This is the single entity within companies, within organizations that nobody else has. And that's where the competitive advantage really lies, and that's where we devote a lot of our effort. Having said that, looking data as the critical material for building our products, our services, and our competitive advantage, we have introduced the concept of data product. A data product, you can imagine this as being a Lego, where within a single mold you recreate this Lego block and you can use it in numerous use cases. Now this is very critical because once you develop these data products, you need to assign ownership, you need to monitor life cycle, you need to see what kind of value they bring. And this is very important because once you put your data on the cloud and you start producing and operating these products, this costs money. And this is very important for the governance part, to be able to control the ownership and the cost ownership of these products. And if there are products that are not used, they need to be discontinued and so forth. So in our data governance framework, apart from all the things that all the other members of this panel mentioned about ethics, about security, about privacy, and all this kind of stuff, it is important to assign the value responsibility. And this needs to come from the business, and this is what we have actually done. And we have created a framework where business is responsible for the data and the data product that we produce. Of course, architecture and technology is really important and really critical. And in our case, we have, and because of the sensitivity of the data that we manage, we have a hybrid strategy where we have cloud stacks and, of course, on-premise stacks. All these with contemporary tools and capabilities, both on the cloud and on local infrastructure. And last but not least, now all these enablers are fine, but we really need to have our people educated and trained so that they can operate, they can develop, and they can build on these kind of capabilities. For this reason, we have created the AI Academy in OTE, and we have metrics and we have obligations to our people so that they get trained and they're able to operate and use this kind of technologies.
Thank you very much. Saig, coming back to you, you know, you've worked on quite a few initiatives. One of those very close to our heart here in Greece. That was the OpenAI for Greece initiative. And, you know, in your work with large institutions, governments, universities, what are some of the greatest gaps in data foundations and capabilities that you've seen?
I really like the point on AI Academy. I think that's really important. So obviously, I think the technical capabilities are there already, and they're getting better and better. So the way that you leverage the models and how you understand the models will become one of the differentiators. So if you have teams, you know, trained in not just AI fluency, but data literacy and being able to ask the right questions, contextualize responses, and be able to interpret them in the best way for any follow-ups or critical decision-making is key. And it's also one of the things that's, you know, blocking a lot of the scaling. The other one would be around building a unified ontology of data. And this is something that we also touched upon earlier with the bank. Piraeus has done it. And I think a lot of other institutions will find the need to do that because the data is scattered. A lot of the unstructured data is just not easily readable or ready to be queried by AI. So if you think about the structure of the company and you have your data and your model sort of south of that data layer and everything that the data powers north, right? So you have your applications, your analytics, your integrations. That middle layer will be the key differentiator going forward. So building that up is also, something that not a lot of enterprises are ready to do. And that's why a lot of the pilots don't produce the ROI that you hope for. So going forward, those two things I think are going to be the ones to look out for.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And, related to that, I also want to focus a bit more on the human side. Professor, obviously you have a lot of experience in academia. And what, data literacy gaps do you see in students and, new professionals coming into the market?
When we designed this program, and we tried to be as careful as possible 10 years ago or 11 years ago, it was one of the first business analytics program worldwide, globally. We had three axes: basic knowledge, fundamentals, and tools, platform systems, languages, whatever, and domain expertise, experience. So the data analysis pipeline consists of different phases: data acquisition, integration, analysis, interpretation, and everything lives within a business environment. I would say that what's missing is the understanding of how we put all these pieces together, thinking data and analysis of data holistically. This is something that comes with experience, and I think that the perfect education in a degree is, and it seems more and more appropriate, the collaboration between university, industry, and research labs, big research labs. So I would say that we need more in terms of high-level thinking, more in critical thinking, design, and things that are more conceptual rather than pure technical details. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. And in terms of delivering value to organizations, I would like to ask you, George, what are the biggest data-related challenges in integrating AI, in your case, into the bank's digital transformation business strategy?
So AI in banking is both exciting and challenging, given the strict regulations and high stakes. So based on our experience so far, the main challenges fall into three, I would say, areas. It's leadership, it's legacy technology, it's measurement and adoption. I'll take each one individually. So leadership. So many business leaders, we saw that many business leaders didn't fully understand GenAI, or maybe some of them didn't see the urgency. To address that, we started an early access copilot program, which counts today 1,000 users, holding a weekly bank-wide forum, outlining a very clear AI strategy, and establishing an AI committee, a top-level AI committee, with all ExCo members and our CEO participating. So legacy technology. outdated data structures and the strict regulations make integration hard. So, as I said before, we developed a data governance framework, we developed a responsible AI policy, and a cloud-based AI architecture and infrastructure. Our data architecture is very critical. It is a modular and cutting-edge, I would say, architecture, featuring speed, scalability, automation of deployment, enhanced security, and reusable components. This improved the data availability. Not only availability, performance as well, time to market, while unlocking new capabilities, enhancing data discovery, and I would say giving us the opportunity to have a data estate which is it's available to even to end users. This is the democratization. So this architecture enabled us to streamline data provisioning as well by introducing data products which are curated, I would say, and maintained sets of data, metadata, semantics, and templates that support diverse business use cases. Third challenge is the adoption and the measurement and adoption. It's very essential. So we have introduced a value realization framework, which is with a clear business ownership and the pre-agreed key value drivers, leveraged by a robust mechanism for monitoring and measuring. Apart from that, I think an ongoing challenge is the skill evolution. So we invest in attracting and developing talent in order to fully leverage the new technologies. So bottom line, I would say achieving success requires leadership commitment, requires a robust data architecture, and the culture open to change.
Thank you very much, George. And Katerina, what challenge do you see when advising C-level executives on the data foundation needed for a successful AI strategy, especially around aligning technology with realistic business outcomes?
So this is the million-dollar question or multi-million-dollar question due to the size of the investment, in fact. So when when we advise C-level executives, the most challenging part is to manage their expectations regarding around the return on investment. The executives today are familiar with traditional investments in the area of technology, or in general, which is easy which is easy to monitor and to monitor the return, and it is predictable. But it's not exactly the same with GenAI. With GenAI, the investments take longer, and sometimes it's not so precise, the return. So as Deloitte, we launched in October a very interesting report that 2,000 executives were interviewed. The name of the report is GenAI, the Paradox of Rising Investment and Elusive Results, which exactly describes that it's not easy to evaluate very well the return, the financial return. So, and we have seen that 85% of the companies and executives have done the previous year a lot of investments in the area of GenAI, and the 90% of those plan to do also investments in this year, although they recognize that the time frame will be much longer, from 2 to 4 years or even more. And why this has happened? As I explained before, a pain point in the area of GenAI execution and application is always data. So they have to put the biggest chunk of the investment refers to the data foundation, which in fact it's essential, it needs to be there, but you cannot evaluate a return on that. But it is the fuel to proceed further. So what do we advise to the C-level executives? We advise that they must not look for the silver bullet, but they have to proceed in two-speed approach. First, they have to chase immediate tactical wins by implementing GenAI tools and gain the right efficiency and productivity on personal and group level. But at the same time, they have to proceed with fundamental investments that are required in order to proceed to the next era, which is agentic AI, and need to prepare everything in order to proceed there. So based on our study, 65% of the executives, they have admitted that they will proceed with even more investments, and GenAI is a part of their strategy, although they recognize that the financial return is not so precise and well-defined. And the benefits that they have to evaluate that they gain, apart from the financial return, is revenue growth, operational cost saving, and the most important one, the speed to achieve all the previous. So the idea is that they have to be bold and proceed fast by building things.
Katerina, thank you very much. And Yanis, our last question for today, and I know we're out of time, so I hope we can make this as brief as we can. What have been the greatest difficulties in aligning data strategy with actual business priorities and day-to-day operations?
Okay, I think most of the challenges have already been mentioned by the previous speakers. However, I would like to point a couple of areas that we have tried to address in a different way. So the first problem when it comes to prove that there is value, when you try to see whether your investments in AI bring value, is instead of treating AI as a project, treat it as a product that has a life cycle, that has specific success criteria, and you monitor it, and you have the ownership for more than a year. Now, this changes the paradigm because it forces thinking on where value exists. What kind of business drivers will I move when I put this in production? So this takes us away from ticking the box that we have implemented a POC or numerous proof of concepts towards implementing products, an inventory of AI products that requires monitoring, quality, governance, all this kind of stuff. So treating AI as a product that needs to operate for considerable amount of time at scale, it is an important aspect that organizations like ours need to bring and actually realize the value from AI. The second thing is that even if we do this, we really need to think of our people. We have to, and we really need to take our people on board. And we're doing this in two ways. First of all, we have opened a dialogue with our people. So there is an open feedback channel, open feedback channels that we collect people's concerns or requirements for trainings or suggestions or all this kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, our people are going to operate these products. Our people are going to live in an organization where AI is going to permeate every product, every service, every activity that we are doing. So that's one. And the second thing is we really need to empower people with simple, low-code AI tools that really can help them in their everyday activities. Because once we have the data sorted out and the data are made available and are democratized so that people can access them, then what they need is simple tools that really can change their everyday activities. And I think this not only has an efficient and a productive, let's say, impact on people, it also affects their confidence and the fact that they can really operate in the new era.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Yanis. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us and sharing your insights. And thank you all for, listening to us. I hope you gain as much insight as I did. Thank you very much.